Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. My voice will go at some point, and I will drink this water to keep things moving and keep my voice nice and smooth. Here's what's happening so far. So we're dollar cost averaging still happening now. We're 3 days. We 2 days have missed. I'm not sure why. It'll pop up at some point, but I'm not sure why this thing doesn't always pick up the things. I've reached out to support. They haven't reached back. Now, Bitcoin is doing what it does, and it's giving us sideways chop movement. So this is a lot of sideways chop. I think that the lack of the interest rate being hiked in an intercession meeting is a good sign for Bitcoin, and it's performed accordingly. So we have a green day today because of that. But let me tell you, this is not confidence, right? This is definitely not confidence. And the reason is, I would like to change, all that being said, we do have this channel here, and this channel is very interesting. Like, we have it drawn out base. Look, I'm roughing this, but this is one of those bullish things that we need to probably keep an eye on, right? These things turn out to be quite bullish. So something to look at. But the fact that we have a green day today is interesting, but I don't think it's very much because the reason Russia has not invaded Ukraine right now is because the average temperature in Ukraine, or temperature in Ukraine right now, it's not negative 7.9. It's actually warmer than expected right now. Like, let's go check weather in Sumy, Ukraine. Right? This is the problem. So it's -4 right now today, but the rest of this week is warm. And this is the problem for Russia, because Russia is invading with tanks. And that whole region, it's been raining. It's fall. It's winter right now. So when it gets warm, that ground it's not permafrost anymore. It's mud. And we saw this in Operation Barbarossa back in the day, World War II, when Germany was invading Russia. And I have, as funny as this sounds, and I wonder if YouTube is going to do anything, I have a defense of Russia. But we'll get to that in a second. When Germany invaded Russia during Barbarossa, Operation Barbarossa, they struggled with the weather changes. That was one of the things they struggled with, because their vehicles just got stuck in mud, right? It was a huge pain. And France, when France invaded Russia, France struggled similarly, right? It's these weather conditions that they really struggle with. Germany went in prepared for World War II, and World War with Russia in the snow. It was ready, but it wasn't so ready for the mud. And so when the autumn rains came in, it definitely slowed things down and made things way more difficult, right? Not just that, though. There were other factors, obviously, but this was one of the factors. And now Russia doesn't want to fall into that trap, because what Germany was after was Ukraine. Because Ukraine is, as we discussed previously, is a central part. And I think it's the name of that video, or the guy that makes a video about this Ukraine invasion that I found really good, Johnny something. Johnny, I forgot what his last name is. I think he was a previous reporter at Vox, but couldn't find it. Johnny something. But Germany first took over Ukraine because Ukraine is such an important part of the USSR at that time. And that is why Russia wants to reclaim it, because it's such an important part. But there's more than that. There's more than that for why Ukraine wants to be taken back by Russia. Not only the cultural ties, but really because, let's go look at Russia, right? The big issue is that Russia has always, right, repeatedly been invaded by the West. It was the Romans, it was the French, then it was the Germans, right? It's like the West has always been interested in taking over Moscow, right? And just taking over. So Russia's always had to have this kind of barrier, right? And the problem here is this land here is super flat. It's not like there are no mountainous areas like how, what is this, Switzerland? Switzerland right here it stays neutral the entire time. And you know why Switzerland stays neutral? It stays neutral because it doesn't have to do anything. It has mountains all around it. No country can actually successfully invade Switzerland. So it just stays out of it. It's like, we're not interested in fighting. Because they don't need to. But Russia has been in a different situation. It's flat plains all the way from like somewhere around here all the way to Moscow, like a straight shot. So if you had an army and you wanted to go take over Russia, it's a straight shot. You don't need to do anything fancy or too wild, which is why like a French army was able to, Napoleon was able to just march right in. Of course, he got bogged down by winter and the mud and whatnot, because there's quite a bit of treacherous terrain over here. But you can imagine how dangerous it is, which is why, I mean, you can see Belarus is very friendly with Moscow, right? And Ukraine used to be, but it's not right now, and they'd like to keep this buffer zone available, which is why Moscow is so adamant that Ukraine doesn't join NATO, because Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are part of it. Poland is part of it. All of these countries are part of it. Even Turkey is part of it now. But Ukraine is not. And so Russia's like, listen, do not bring Ukraine part of this, because then we're right at then that if the West, if we ever choose to invade Russia, it's an easy shot from there. It's a straight shot. There's no mountainous territory. It's just, you just go right in, just walk right in, literally walk right in. And with modern tech, it's like a breeze. So you can imagine. So, and this is the defense of what Russia is doing. Russia is understandably nervous, looking at the situation historically. That first it was the Romans, then it was the French, then it was the Germans twice, right? That tried to invade its motherland. And now it's trying to build this buffer zone out. And of course, the West is up in arms, like, listen, you can't do this, but, you know, this is the situation. And so why they're not invading right now, as we've discussed, is that it's too warm, right? It's too warm. The next week is all warm and rain. That's not going to help Russia do a quick and easy invasion. They need that permafrost. They need the land to be frozen. And that's not this week. And let's see, long term. Let's see, long term. Yeah, let's see what the weather looks like. It might be, and listen, this is what we can say. We can say that if Russia does not invade by mid-March, it's over. They're not doing it this year, right? That it's not going to happen this year. Where is this chart that I'm looking for? It looks. I want the 14-day. All right, cool. Right. If Russia does not invade by, say, March 15th, you can call it off. The invasion is not happening of Ukraine. And that means, and why are we discussing this so much? It's because it will impact the price of Bitcoin. This is akin to a black swan event, right? There are warnings, but it's nothing like the pricing in of interest rate hikes that have probably already been priced in. An invasion of Ukraine has not occurred yet. So how could you price in something that has not occurred? And it's a complete surprise. It's not like we have any clear information. The reason the Biden administration was warning, or the U.S. was warning so much, is because the weather was cooperative the last couple days. Now, it's not anymore, right? Obviously, as you can see. But let's see what the long-term forecast says. So it doesn't look ideal, right? These are above. It's warmer than we want. Maybe it looks like the last week of February looks a little bit more ideal. But not, I mean, it's 0, -4, +2. It's not helpful. So we'll have to see. Maybe that's when things could start happening again, right? But up until that point, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see if something happens. But these are the metrics that I'm watching and following. Like if we get something in the last week of February, okay, great, that's possible. Looking at the long-term forecast, possibly in here. But by February 15th, I'll tell you, this is all mud, and you're not getting your tanks through very easily. Right, even if you have paved roads, that mud's going to be a problem, and you don't want that. You want easy maneuverability, especially if you're taking over a country, because there's resistance in Ukraine. It's not a friendly country. It's not like someone that's going to, hands open, sure, do whatever you want. It's not like that. It's going to be a difficult thing to do, so we'll have to wait and see. So that's the situation, I think, and we'll have to wait. Yeah, that's it, and this is the reason, right? As explained, long forecast. Now, this is how much the S&P 500, a one-day crash when things have occurred in the past, and the drawdown, right? And the how many days it took to the bottom and how many days it took to recover. So this is interesting data, but remember that this is for the S&P 500, and a 5% down for the S&P 500 is like a 25% down for us in the crypto markets. That's something to notice. This is like, we got to multiply it because we're way more volatile. And we're volatile because the S&P 500 is valued at like several, like $50 trillion or something, and the crypto market's like 2 or 3 trillion, 1 to 3 trillion, something like that. It's tiny in comparison. So you can imagine. And like these things are black swan events, right? Like North Korea missile crisis, like um, like obviously Black Pearl Harbor and stuff. I mean, that's like that's completely out of the blue. Obviously, that no one knew, but Iraqi invasion, we had foresight, right? U.S. terrorist attack. So you can see that if we had some foresight, it's not as bad. And when it's like a straight up surprise, it's really bad. But you can see that we did go down 16% for Iraq, right, as things went down. Um, but yeah, this is all I wanted to talk about today. I will catch up with you later. I do also plan to make a second video today about how to buy Bitcoin, like different ways to buy Bitcoin, because you can buy Bitcoin on an exchange, you can buy Bitcoin off an exchange, you can have someone buy it, and you can like literally buy it physically, like from a person. So all these options. I will talk to you tomorrow. If you like this content, subscribe, like, and comment. I will see you soon.